Hi everyone, welcome to this next session, which is an end client panel discussion on innovations and technology. Very varied and exciting panel. I'll just start introducing everybody. We have Tony Costella, Director of Central CMI Global Commerce at Heineken. We have Fenny Léautier, who is Director or Senior Director Strategic Marketing and Consumer Intelligence at Philips Personal Health. We have Arnoud van Huffelen, who's Shopping Insights Manager at Red Bull. And we have Marlon Plazo, who's CMI Transformation Director, Food and Refreshments at Unilever. And as you know, in the last years, I'm Niels, by the way, in case you don't know me. I'm currently the ESOMAR Ex-Officio President and still sitting at Council. And as you may know, we've been paying a lot of attention the last couple of years in terms of what's happening on the CMI function at the client side. And we've organized at client summits, at conferences, we organize these click sessions, which are basically roundtable discussions in terms of what's going on. And out of that, we've seen that a lot of things are happening. Things like end clients or CMI functions looking at how to restructure and or reorganize themselves, find a different place in the organizational design. Things like looking for more agile, more smart operations in terms of research. But one topic that always pops up as well is looking for the next big thing and looking at not only today, but tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So we're really going to talk a little bit about developing those innovative capabilities. And I'd like to kick off by asking each one of you, what's the next big thing that's on your radar? Is it AI? Is it bots? Is it blockchain? Is it nothing of that? Is it a combination? What's your first reflections? Who wants to start? Fenny, why don't you start and give a perspective?
I can start. It sounds really futuristic and, of today, what you mentioned. I think that all of these things will happen very soon, and we are already experiencing it every day. Mm-hmm. But I think there's still a lot of potential as well in kind of unlocking the data that we in our companies have. Even without AI, even without chatbots, I think there's still a lot of unused kind of data mm-hmm. Where we can get a lot of insights from that we should deep dive in. And I think that's something that I really want to advance very quickly on to do that. Yeah. Because I think it's like Tricia Wang, I think, mentions that as well, big mm-hmm. data and thick data. It's that combination yep. That is the future. And then, of course, if you want to understand the motivations of consumers, you will need to have new techniques, new technologies that help us to uncover these real motivations and why people do things rather than asking questions. Because I think that's a bit of the past, and I think technology will give us so much opportunity to really understand much better why consumers are doing certain things than just by asking questions through a questionnaire or yeah. a discussion guide.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Arnoud, yeah. What's your reflection?
Thank you. Now, I think what will be the most important developments in research is actually what's most important to the business. Yep. So in that sense, I think when you're talking business, then you're talking sales, of course. And then I think data and analytics comes into play. So I think the most important developments will be in the area of data science, analytics. And looking from a shopper perspective, then it's important to combine geolocation, but also AI to see potential of various stores or areas. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of development and technology, I think it's combining data and using new analysis techniques to uncover new sales opportunities.
Yeah, that's interesting. That business relevance is really one that pops up in the link to sales, of course, especially from a shopper perspective. Mm-hmm. Great point. Thank you. Marlon, what about you?
Fully agree with both the points that was just expressed. I think when you think about what is the future, we have to think of it in a broader context. Mm-hmm. How can a CMI function continue to add more value to the business? Yep. And in the past, there was a lot of focus on the data, the information, and you get into the insights, and finally go to recommendations and ideas. That flips on its head, mm-hmm. right? In the future, CMI has to be more focused on how do I drive ideas forward, and technologies that allow CMI that frees up the human capacity to do that are the things that will really matter. So I do believe a combination of AI, I do believe a combination of harnessing the data you currently have, chatbots. I like to think of it as we have to be method agnostic, not cherry picking what looks fantastic, what is exciting, what is a nice buzzword, but what helps us drive ideas into the business, what frees our human capacity and our human capability to do that. And some technologies really help. Some technologies are a little bit backward, and that's how we have to evaluate.
Okay. Perfect. Tony.
Yeah, sure. And I think, I fully agree with with the rest of the panel. And to pick up on that point from Marlon just there as well, I think, I'm not excited about technologies. And I know said the same thing. I'm excited about what's the impact for our business. And sometimes you hear, excitement about a certain area, about AI or the latest buzzword, blockchain, whatever else. Great, but what's the impact for the business? And sometimes that can get a little bit lost, and people start throwing out what the latest buzzword is, and more interested in what it does for the business. And again, to repeat what everyone else has said, for me, the opportunities that are available to us as CMI functions within businesses right now, there's so many opportunities, and it really is around connecting the what and the why. And you mentioned there's a lot of discussion happening within end clients around what is the role of CMI, and that there are a lot of other functions, internal, but also external groups coming in and talking about how they can tell and guide the business using analytics, which is all great stuff. What is missing sometimes from that is the why. And at the same time, I think connecting those two, because what without why is just is correlation, but no causation. How do we make sure that we are understanding not just what people are doing, but why they're doing it? That's the real value that a CMI mindset brings to all of this. And so I'm excited about those technologies, but those solutions rather than the technologies, the solutions that can connect what and why.
Perfect. Yeah, great insight. Which brings us a little bit to another topic, if you want. You were mentioning, sometimes buzzwords are thrown around. We're not interested in the technology per se. It has to link to sales or really drive ideas forward. How do you separate the wheat from the chaff? I'm sure you all get bombarded by suppliers at large to say we have the next big thing, and they're throwing technology and features at you. How do you go about determining this is something that's going to lead and have a business impact and going to have business relevance? How do you go about that?
It's like I've got the mic, so I'll start. But we, as you say, absolutely bombarded. And I think it's useful for everyone to know that as an end client, I get literally 20 to 30 emails a day, even though I've unsubscribed from everything I possibly can. I get 20 to 30, GDPR still has some work to do. I get 20 to 30 emails a day from agencies offering new services, full of buzzwords, full of technologies, full of great new ideas and how they can help drive Heineken's business. It's all fantastic. So we have to have, honestly, most of it has to go straight to trash. We don't. We have to find some way to filter that. The biggest thing that I always ask is, what is your point of difference? What are you bringing that I'm not getting from other people? And honestly, when I throw that question back to agencies, the vast majority come back with more buzzwords and more technology. It's like, you haven't answered, what are you bringing to my business that I don't already have today? And most people can't answer that question. It's simple. We are expected to do it with our brand. I expect research and analytics suppliers to be able to tell me what they bring that I don't already have.
Yeah.
And
fantastic. Thank you. Fenny.
Yeah, I think they sometimes don't realize what type of decisions do we have to take and how these new technologies can help us doing that. So there's a great new technology, but then I say, okay, but what decision can I take? What kind of new insight do I get from the consumers compared to what I used to have?
Yeah.
And I only see those few that really have that business experience and know what information we need in order to take decisions, but also to unravel that consumer insight behind it. Maybe it's the experience, so that it's action driven, that you can do something with it and take a decision. And very often it's nice to know, but so what? And then it doesn't help. So then they need to do more work to really understand how it can help marketeers to take the right decisions, because there's so much data out there now. I mean, if you think about real-time marketing, so we understand much more about the behavior of consumers, and what do these techniques then, from a research perspective, add. So I think sometimes that's a bit too much in isolation, not really thinking about the business mindset.
Perfect. Yeah, we are data rich. We're not necessarily insights rich.
No.
So technology needs to help that too.
Yeah.
Arnoud, let's just do it sequentially.
Continue, yeah. No, I think it's not so much that we as people in the insights business need to evaluate techniques on our own. Some things are also done collectively by the market. I think some technologies take years to prove themselves. And for example, with neuroscience, when looking at advertising, I think maybe even 7 years ago, the results from that weren't that actionable. There were some people that were really into the neuroscience, but not into the business. So that takes a lot of time to crystallize. So I'm honestly going to say I've tuned out of the neuro a couple of years ago, and then recently got back in the game, and now see, okay, these people know what they're talking about. They've talked to a lot of clients and know what they need to suggest as well. But I think there's another layer as well, and there's, I think, the legal restrictions. So vetting technologies, what can you use? It's now even that technologies or solutions are suggested that aren't even within the legal boundaries, because the legal aspects are moving so fast now with GDPR, but also other related legislation. So I think in terms of possibilities in technology, it's huge, and we can move further and further. But the boundaries are set by humans. So actually, what people are willing, what data they are willing to give and to spread. And I think that's a real boundary, because if we can combine even more and more data sources, we can create richer insights. But if people are hesitant to give the data or give permission to link the data, then we are out of options, so to say. We have the possibility, but we cannot do it.
Yeah, absolutely valid point.
I have a slightly different take on it. I think there is a shared responsibility of everyone in the CMI organization. First and foremost, to become a T-shaped professional. What does that mean? If you think about a capability from awareness to mastery, we have to at least have an awareness or appreciation over a wide array of techniques, capabilities, methodologies, right? Be it on AI, be it on analytics, ethnography, whatever have you. So that as a CMI manager, you are abreast of what's coming, and you can also imagine the art of what's possible. However, that doesn't mean that everyone should start experimenting. That's chaos, particularly if you're in a very, very big company like Unilever. So then how do you balance it out, right? There has to be a systematic and coordinated way of experimenting and learning on the experiments. And a few really capable experts, particularly on trickier and more cutting-edge technologies, right? Rely on the experts who know about AI to vet if an agency really knows what they're talking about, understands the models, understands what deep learning is, so on and so forth. Not everybody should experiment. So you need to have those experts whose focus are on those capabilities, and experiment and learn and systematically capture those learnings. But at the same time, everyone who is business facing or is doing the job on a day-to-day basis, they also have to be thinking about, if I had this capability, what can I do for my business? And hence brief your own internal capabilities, scout for it. But then once you do find someone that looks interesting, don't just go off I'm not sure I can say that, and just experiment as is. Talk with your internal experts and go through the process of vetting it out.
That's more of an organizational perspective as a collective function in insights to make sure you manage it that way.
Yes, there's an organizational structure to it, but at the same time, there's a personal responsibility for every CMI to educate yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Go ahead, Fenny. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree, but I think also sometimes if you look at the kind of more traditional researchers that are there, I think we should be sometimes a bit more daring and taking a bit more risk, and because we see the business, they want more agile approaches, more faster kind of feedback, more iterative loops, And it means sometimes, we just need to experiment. And it means that sometimes it doesn't give you the answer, but at least you tried it, and next time I will do it differently. So, but you just fail once, and that's the thing that you have to do, and learn from it, and then look at, okay, what could work. So I think there's a bit of experimentation that we have to do as well, to really try out certain things. Of course, only when we see that there could be an impact for a project that you do, for a business decision.
That's an interesting point, and I'm really glad you raise it. Is in your organizations, do you feel that experimentation, and hence also failing, is accepted, is tolerated? Because with experimentation comes success, but also sometimes
I think as long as you're transparent about it, so you say we're trying a new thing, could not be perfect, but we learn from it, and then I think it's fine. It's fine because it's continuous learning loops, and it means that it will not be a standard qualitative and a quantitative. No, we do iterative loops, and it means that you use new technologies to uncover certain things that maybe you would not have uncovered otherwise. Yep. But sometimes it doesn't give you the insight that you were looking for. That is, a fact of life as well, which is also a fact. But maybe also you say, well, next time I don't do that kind of that chatbot or whatever anymore in this situation because it doesn't give me the deepness that I need. And I think, so we need to do experiment a bit, but within kind of the boundaries, of course, because we still need to be perceived as the function, and also we need to deliver the insights that are needed for decision making. So it depends a bit the risks that you can face. Certain projects you can take a bit more risk than on others.
I can build on
Tony,
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because and of course there's a difference between when you're doing insight creation, when you're looking for new ideas. Experimentation is very easy, and the business is, my business at least, and every business I've worked in is very open to that. Right? It's not difficult to convince people that we can try something new for a new way to find new insights. Never a problem. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult when you're getting onto validation and proving that something works.
And legacy work and
Exactly. But in both these areas, I think sometimes there's a little bit too much focus on it's either the old way or the new way. And very often, the best way, a lot of the new technologies and tools build on instead of replace the old. And so that's what, and I think there's a real opportunity for groups that are looking to push new technology to do that a little bit more. So instead of just saying, forget the old, and we talked about neuro before, implicit, all of these things, which, and I completely agree, it was a great point from Arnoud. I think it takes a while for us to really embed and understand these things. But even when you do, it's not that they often completely replace what we did before. Sometimes they give you a different perspective, a different view, and it's very often when you get 2 or 3 different views of the consumer, 2 or 3 different ways of looking at the same business issue, that's where you get some real insight, when you get different answers from different tools. So that's, for me, what always gets me excited. What I very often have is specialists who come and say, this is the new answer, and then it's that and only that. Why don't we try and a little bit more experiment with the existing tools, but then throw a new idea on top? I'd love to see more of that happening.
Okay, great.
If I can add something, I think building more things on top of the things you're doing already, that can create a lot of value. Because I think the more traditional way of approaching projects, like for example doing survey research or doing in-store measurements, I think if you add an analytics part, which is a totally different part of the insights function, but if you add it to the same project, I think it enriches, and it indeed gives, like Tony said, it gives more views on the same topic, so you have a richer insight, and you can create better decisions. So it's not shifting approaches. I think the combination of traditional research approaches and new data science approaches, that's where the real value is created right now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, Marlon.
In some areas, though, I do believe that we need to think about the new approach first versus the old approach, particularly, for example, for digital behaviors or media behaviors. It's such a dense set of activities, it's almost impossible for traditional approaches to figure out. What did you last do on your Facebook feed 10 minutes ago? Who can answer that honestly nowadays? And in those cases, there are new techniques which are easier. You know, observational techniques, data-driven techniques, AI, all of that stuff. And when we go into those new areas, I think we have to be brave enough to try things which we're not comfortable with. I'd steal a quote from my manager who once said, "It's so easy to default to the status quo. So do what's different first, because if you fail, it's so easy to catch up and redo the status quo, what you're used to doing." You know, so in a way, put your energy first into trying something new if you think it's more fit for what needs to be done.
Okay, good. Shifting topic a little bit, all this technology has to bring certain advantages, right? It has to be business relevant. But if you look at technology, basically it can create 4 effects. It could make you gain time, so do things quickly. It could create cost efficiencies. Technology could also sometimes bring you better information or higher quality, or it could allow you to do things that were previously not possible before, call it transformational things. If you look at innovation in four insights, which of those 4, and I know many will say, yeah, let's give it all, but if you have to pick one, or say which one is more important than the other, do you have a vision on that?
Yeah, I think if I can start it off. I think first and foremost it should make business sense. So it should deliver higher quality insights. I think, of course, doing new things, being able to do new things, that of course it falls under the same bucket, so to say. But I think that is the most important part. Higher quality insights, and I think creating freeing up time from people in the insights function, that's sort of a hygiene factor, because every new thing that's been added to our toolkit needs to do that, and I think everybody wants that. But higher quality insights, that's in the end where we as insights people are there for. So that's the number one thing I'm always looking for.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So building up on that, I think if it's just cost or if it's just speed, I don't think that is what kind of our executives expect from us. It's really about bringing that transformational insight. So bringing other ideas that can be game changers, because things are changing so fast that you hardly can keep up with all the changes in China, all the new social platforms and media, and shopping is kind of converging. Social, you buy wherever you are. The time span of consumers is reducing. So how can you tap into that, and what kind of value can you deliver in that experience to consumers? So I think it should be more real time. We should be more closer to where the consumer is, and understand much better what drives that consumer, and that's the kind of the change. It's not anymore about, okay, we do a project for 2 months maybe to find out what it is. I think it should be what you said, the richer and the better insight, but it should also be more real time. It should be more actionable, and it should be. So I don't think it's only cost, because that is not, and it's not only about freeing up time, but it's also really connecting the dots of the different data sources, as you said, and that's the why as well as the what, observation, but also what people do on their social media, for example, and how can that explain certain behaviors that you see. There are plenty of opportunities, I think, there by connecting all the dots. I think that's the holistic insight that we need to generate, rather than doing one primary research and getting insights out of that. Yeah.
Tony, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, fully agree. I think speed and cost are table stakes now. There's business, CMI, the old days of taking 6 weeks, 2 months to do a study, it's gone. Business moves faster than that. So we just have to accept that we need those. And yes, there are very occasionally these rare unicorn projects where you can take 6 months and create great insights, but there's
less and less of those.
Yeah, that's not the speed of business. So yes, they're important, speed and cost, but it's table stakes. It's a given. Completely agree. It's the transformation. It's the linking to what Marlon was saying, even to the last question. I think it's shifting from claims to behaviour is really important, and it's exactly what Fem was just saying as well. We need to move on, and we know that consumers lie constantly, not always intentionally, sometimes, but not always,
or not perfect memories.
So studies and research and insights that are based on that always come with a good dose of interpretation required on top. We need to move more to measuring and observing rather than asking. And it's great to ask once you've observed something. It's great to ask why that might be the case. But let's start by observing it. So you talked earlier on about what are some of the tools that excite you, and it is still actually some of those tools from what you might say a generation ago that are now, as Arno says, are now maturing. Yeah. So the neuro that's measuring things implicit, I think, is now just becoming mature enough that is we can get some really useful learnings out of it. That's not just asking people what they think, but measuring their behavior that can give us much better indication, and we're learning how to benchmark those things. So it's that area of transformation that gives us better insight, that really helps us understand what's really going on inside consumers' heads, which often the consumer doesn't know themselves, that open up much deeper and better insights for us.
Cool, thank you. Marlon, you want to provide a closing thought on this?
I think the only thing, so I agree with everything, and the only thing which perhaps I can add to this is, what are the technologies that free up our own actual human capacity to provide value, right? That's all I'm looking for. And things which a machine can do, let a machine do. Okay. Things which a human being can do, if you can give me whatever tools that I can exercise human empathy, lateral creativity, and influence to drive action, then I'm all for that technology. It can be as simple as a self-service A/B test to something as fancy as deep learning on existing studies that you've currently done. All of those help.
All right, perfect. There's a lot of food for discussion. I have the impression we could keep on going. But if you like this, we're going to do more of these. We're going to have a panel discussion with end clients at Congress or at a lot of different occasions. If you're interested in that, please keep on tuning in. I remember a lot of things. We're going to, maybe make a little blog post out of this so everybody can reread it. I'd like to thank you all for your different perspectives. For me, it's a lot of it is about timing in multiple ways of interpreting that. Because without the right timing, your innovation is maybe not worth something today, but it may be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And it's all about that business relevance, if you want. So if you don't mind, we've got beer, we've got Red Bull and ice cream, and our health to be monitored. So if you don't mind, we'll close off here. Would like to thank you and see you around.